Thinking Tackle Podcast.
Welcome to the Thinking Tackle Podcast. Joining us in the studio is Dave Finn. Now, during lockdown, Dave kept many of us occupied with his highly entertaining and popular carp quiz. During this period, he actually gained something of a cult following. Now, Dave is a Korda-sponsored angler who's fished some of the top waters in this country, including Elstow, Horton and his current lake, Wellington Country Park. In 2019, he landed Wellington's biggest carp, a fish known as Scruffy Bob, at 61 pounds and 12 ounces. As well as some great UK results, he's also been successful on the continent too, landing several fish over 70 pounds from the mighty Rainbow Lake in France. Now, Dave is undoubtedly one of carp fishing's great characters and was a fabulous guest on the show. We hope you enjoy it. Now, I know everyone likes that now, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
I do.
I quite like doing it, actually.
Yeah, it's a cue, isn't it? Because you're chatting now, you don't know whether it's live or not, and then all of a sudden, bang.
Yeah, well, like I say, when we're rolling, I get a special signal from Toby.
Do you?
And then, then I know when we're rolling.
I'll keep looking out the corner of my eye then.
Oh, you won't
so if
see
I look
anything.
boss-eyed, it's not that. It's just I'm just looking to see if we're rolling or not.
We're rolling now, aren't we, Toby?
I don't know. You wanted me to keep it a secret.
Oh my God! What a shambles this is.
First I was telling you when I'm rolling.
I knew I should have gone on the carp cast.
You should have done.
Honestly.
Did you see me on that? I didn't have an awful lot to talk about.
No.
Well, not carp fishing wise. I went on that a few months ago.
Right.
Basically, because Jamie was coming on this.
Right. Yeah. Jamie
had already recorded a Zoom podcast with us.
Yeah.
And it was like he needs to come in the studio. He's got more to talk about than just. So I said to him, "We're not going to put the Zoom one out."
Right.
And he said, "Would you mind if I put it out on the Carpcast?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, I'd have to check."
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, do you want to just come on the Carpcast?" And I thought, so I talk about modelling and like mountaineering and that sort of stuff, and a little bit about Savay.
Yeah.
I mean, I have actually. If I had to talk about my fishing, I could probably drag it out for a couple of hours.
Trust me, if I can blag it for an hour and a half.
No, you've done a lot more fishing than I've done.
You'll be able to blag it.
You've done a lot of fishing.
Oh, I don't know about that. Not enough.
Yeah.
Some would say too much at home. I would say not enough.
Is that how it feels?
And I think, do you know what? I think as I'm getting older, and it is an addiction. Unquestionably, it's an addiction. I think that addiction's getting stronger.
Oh, is it?
Really bad.
Does it come and go though?
No.
Doesn't it?
Me and Bailey call it ferreting. So we go to the garage and ferret. So you move a bucket from one side of the garage to the other, or wind some more hook length onto a spool, or whatever it is, or pour pellet into one bucket from another, and it's just getting your fix. And I have to have my fix every single day.
Yeah.
It's terrible,
You feel like you just need to be doing something.
Yeah.
What was your fix today then, Dave? What did you do?
What did I do? Ian asked me to get a tub of pop-ups for him, so I put them in the car. I got my fix last night because I moved my van forward, sorted out the bottom of the barrow bag, and what else did I do? Took braid off of one spool, put it back onto a spool to then strip a bit more line because I reckon I've overfilled it, and I thought I can't look like an absolute idiot using braid and just casting it. Goes everywhere and you think,
I mean, these essential jobs that you would have to do.
They're all essentials, aren't they? You know, it's a bit like going to a tackle shop and spending money. That is an essential essential purchase, isn't it? Yeah. Good old Boris, he's going to make an announcement. Well, probably in about the next hour, isn't he?
Is he? Yeah. What do you reckon?
As long as he don't stop carp fishing, I'm not really.
He's not going to stop that, is he?
No, I don't think that's probably top of his agenda. Do you?
No, I don't.
It's funny, isn't it?
It is
funny old times. Hopefully, some of that's behind us.
I want to get on an aeroplane and fly off somewhere.
Yeah, I do. But you want to do it without the mask, without saying you will go to the pool at a certain time, you will have dinner at a certain time.
No,
that's not a holiday.
No. I want to be around people normally.
But I was just saying to James when I came in, if you look at carp fishing at the minute, it's hell, isn't it? Really, because nobody's away. I think I was saying to you. So it's not like you can say, well, Dave's not there this week. He's in Mallorca and John's not here. He's in, I don't know, France, and they've gone for 2 weeks somewhere else. Everybody's at the lake.
I know.
Everybody.
I know.
And you're like, come on, Boris. Just open up these countries. Let us travel.
It is.
Just so carp fishing can become a bit quieter again.
Well, yeah, and back to normal, because it's not normal to see, everyone to be crammed. It's like having all your mates crammed into one room, like 24/7, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
I think I was
weird.
saying to you earlier, turned up at a lake on a Tuesday, new moon, but it's a club lake. You wouldn't expect some of the club lake people to be there. 6 on a Tuesday, and I'm thinking, I've got down a day early for that moon. I can't get where I want to get. Oh, I'm going to have to go back into this swim. It is like... I've never been to prison, but I can only imagine it being... Well, it's a miracle I haven't, but I can only liken it to being in a prison cell.
Yeah.
Because you did everything in this swim.
Yeah.
You can't leave your rods because you're fishing woodwork. It's...
Yeah, it's a funny world.
It's endurance. Yeah, it is. It's...
Anyway,
Go on.
Dave Finn, we are live.
Thank you for
Welcome to
having
the
me.
podcast.
Cheers.
You're looking
Cheers.
forward to that bit.
Yeah, I am. I've been waiting. I'm thinking, are we live? Are we live? Is he going to say we're live?
For everybody
Cheers.
watching, we tried to get Dave on episode 1, but he was just unavailable.
Honestly,
Too busy.
I have commitments. Obviously, after the carp quiz, I have GQ magazine.
How many years in a row have you won that now?
6.
Six
Yeah.
times.
GMTV are looking for a new presenter.
Are
Obviously,
they?
Piers has gone.
Yeah.
Did you turn him down just for
There's a lot of demand
We're
there.
still haggling over the money. We're
What
still
about, yeah?
haggling.
Yeah.
Still haggling.
Yeah.
I drive a hard bargain. So I've been told. Drive a hard
Well,
bargain.
you're in demand, Dave. And,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what it is.
before we start, have you got a nice gift for us?
Yeah, so obviously touching back on the quiz, a lot of people would have known me on the quiz for the ridiculous outfits that we wore.
So how many quizzes is it? These are the Korda quizzes.
Yeah, they were done in lockdown, and they came about really because obviously in the first lockdown we didn't know what was really happening in the world, and people were nervous and scared, and you couldn't move anywhere. And I thought, and I like making people laugh, and I like bringing a smile to people's faces. And I thought, well, what can we do so people can get their carp fishing fix? I can get my carp fishing fix as well. Selfish,
that was
aren't
the
I, really?
daily fix.
Yeah. I can get my fix, and we can bring a bit of joy and happiness to people. So,
What were you saying about the questions when you were writing the questions?
it was an absolute nightmare. So I approached John Wilkes in marketing and said, look, I'm thinking of doing this. He said, look, give me a day. We'll see what we can do. So he came back and said, yeah, we can run that. So it was me in my office at home. It wasn't like this beautiful studio. I had a iPhone sellotaped to the laptop, and then the laptop, so we could run Instagram and Facebook. And
Genius.
and I said, we're going to have different rounds. I said, but the stipulation, and fair play to John and to Korda, I said, it can't just be Korda. It's got to be, I've got to be able to mention other companies. Otherwise, the longevity of it is not really going to last, is it? So he said, no, that's fine. So I started writing these questions. But the problem you've got, Si, is if I use Terry Hearn, so you can have one Terry Hearn question, but then you can't have 10 in a thing. And so you've got to find something that most people will understand, but also that becomes a bit tricky, or to the person who is maybe a bit more newer to the sport would be able to get as well. So I don't know, what does Terry use as a bait company? Dynamite. So people would know that, the experienced and the novice guy. You try and do that over 60, 70 questions.
Right, next question.
Yeah.
Right, when did Terry...
Yeah, but you try and do that, and then you've got the following week, you've got to find them again. So you have your Danny Fairbrass question, your Fox question, your ESP question. And you're thinking, I think I've bitten a bit more off than I can chew. And I think the first show we aired it live, and I think, I can't remember, the boys would be able to tell you, but I think there was about 2,000 people watching. You think,
Live, yeah.
Yeah, and you think at the sort of height of it, and there was some good banter. And the nice thing was there was no real negativity. I got absolute pelters. There's Uncle Jim, Uncle Fester. Look at him.
There is definitely a resemblance there, isn't there?
What's Uncle Fester? Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to jump in there because In doing, me and Si now, we're probably well over 50 episodes in recorded.
Right.
We've seen some of the sport's most iconic photos from every angle.
Yeah.
But the one I'm about to throw up for everyone now
This
has to
picture
be
here, wow, look
the
at
most
this, Dave.
iconic one I've ever seen.
I'll tell you what, it's the most iconic chin I've ever seen. Look at the size of it. It's, but it was. So the glasses were.
That's a good
my
shot.
My aunt passed away, and I found these when I was clearing her house out, and they were so ridiculous that I can't believe she ever wore them. The tie was I was trying to become this professional TV presenter, but failing miserably, and that's the sort of whole remit of the show. And then I think in that episode I had a spod necklace. I thought, how can I? And I was making these adverts and filming them and reading Kevin Maddox's Carp Fever with a teddy bear next to me and stuff like that.
But I think that's what people enjoyed about them, isn't it? Because it's just you being you in your house, and I think everybody at the time relates to it.
Do you know what? And it got to about 4 weeks in, 5 weeks in, and I'd had some really, really lovely messages, and at the time it was just me doing the research. And then as it sort of grew, and I'm thinking, I can't remember this. I rustled in Bailey. James Salmon's helped me. Even Damo chipped in with a few questions,
Right.
And I had a lovely message from Wendy on the first show. Obviously, running a big company like Korda, a lot of stress that goes with it, you know. And she said, Dave, you've made him really smile and really happy. And she sent me a picture of him playing along on his iPad. She didn't send me the score, but she sent me playing along.
How many of those did you do?
I think we did about 8 in the end.
Yeah.
But we got to about 4 in, and I thought, I need a break from this. So I had a week off. It might have been 4 or 5 weeks. I had a week off, and I actually thought, I'm going to jack this in. This is hard work. I'm struggling to get content. It's taking over my life, sort of thing. I'm having to sift through books to find something that is relevant to.
What was it? Was it 1 hour?
Yeah, it was a 1 hour slot just before people came out in the streets and clapped the show at the end of it.
Was it Thursday nights or Tuesday?
No, it was a Thursday night.
Yeah.
The Thursday night carp quiz, and then the government had kindly arranged that. At 8 o'clock, people would go out and applaud the show in the street, which was always nice as well.
You got a good response there.
No, it was unprecedented. A nation came out to clap it. That was how powerful and big it was. But in all seriousness, and I thought, I'm going to jack it in. And then somebody sent me a private message on Facebook. I didn't know who he was, and he said, Dave, I've really been struggling with, and it makes me well up about talking about it. Really struggling with mental health and anxiety in this lockdown. And he said, your quiz is something that gives me reason to look forward to the rest of the week. He said, me and my whole family have our dinner early, and we all sit on that settee and we all play along. And I'm going to see him tomorrow. He's been sectioned, but no. And in fairness, joking aside, and it hit a real raw nerve with me, and I thought, never underestimate the power of laughter and what people can do and how it can affect people. And I thought, no, I'm going to carry on, if for nothing else, for that guy alone, sort of thing. And,
and many more out there as well. I mean, there was a lot of people in those sort of situations. Yeah. So that was it then. That's all the motivation you needed after that to carry on with those.
And then and then we come out of lockdown and everyone's like, rubbish quiz, don't want to see that anymore. And then we sort of brought it back at Christmas, and I think it'll be, I don't know, but I think it'll be a regular Christmas thing, because I think people like to play along. They like to test their knowledge. Like the lads on Welly were almost, Dave, I'll take you for breakfast if you give us the answer.
So do you like playing the character?
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, you played quite a good character in the Christmas one, didn't you, Dave?
Yeah,
on the commercial as well, on the Instagram commercial.
But again, there were people participating in the adverts, Tom, Damien, Dan, who all gave me some of their time, and that's valuable time. Yeah. But understand that I think that to have some humour is important, and and that bumbling man who thinks that he's made it, presenting this part-time show, and now he's got a little helper. He's got a little Toby as his helper, who he's grooming to this web of deceit of making money on the sly, and a bit like my life, really, I suppose. But
you be careful with that.
Yeah. So I've brought you the glasses. They are quite a sentimental thing, so look after them.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Dave.
That's all right.
So these glasses, did you say came from your auntie?
Yeah, they came from my aunt, and she was like a mum to me, and she passed away. Go on, you can put them on. But yeah, I think you look the part.
That's a new profile.
Honestly,
picture
I think
if I've ever seen one.
yeah. Tom Ford's got nothing on them. So yeah, and I think, you know, I said to you the other day, I could bring in a solar net or an Armalite rod built by Bob, an amorphous, but they actually, for the period of time we're in at the moment, in terms of unprecedented time, are quite, shall we say, iconic. People,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Go on, Si. They deserve a nice spot at the front of the table. I reckon.
They do.
Yeah.
How about on there, Toe?
Yeah.
Lovely. Look at that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Were they staying?
Yeah. You know.
Yeah.
Put them next to the picture of or somebody's rig that caught the Black Mirror.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
It's quite apt, isn't it?
Pride of
Really?
place,
Yeah. Move all that off the table.
Yeah, they can't really go anywhere now, can they?
No,
Those.
exactly.
I mean, they stand up. No, thanks very much.
No.
And that's the idea of these gifts, isn't it? You know, it's individuality. And,
it is.
no, you've done a great job with those. That must have made you feel pretty good after.
You come away from shall we say doing a show, and have a massive sense of achievement, a massive sense that you haven't sort of fluffed it up, but it was so tongue in cheek that if you it was like I say, so tongue in cheek that if you did fluff it up, you could sort of blag it.
You done really. I mean, that was so spontaneous as well, wasn't it? Because you know, like you say, you had people writing in comments and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was quite dynamic, wasn't it, that night when you were doing the Christmas?
Yeah, we
one?
had good fun doing that.
Yeah,
It was
we
good.
did, and it's funny because you talk about an inn, and great respect to you guys who do it, but you talk about an inn, and 5 minutes before the show, I thought, how can we open this Christmas show?
Oh
Well,
yeah,
how can
we
open
did
it?
do that last minute, didn't we?
And I said to little Toby, you sit here, I'll sit there, and we'll pretend that we're ripping off Korda via the show, and people can advertise with us, and they can message you, and blah blah. And it was done 5 minutes before. But sometimes the best humour and the best, shall we say, comedy or slapstick is off the cuff sort of thing. So yeah, like I say, gave me immense thing, and I go fishing, go to different places, and people don't say, oh, you caught that fish or you did this. People say, you did the quiz, didn't you? I used to watch the quiz. When's it coming back? Back?
What would you rather be remembered for then? Catching the quiz.
Yeah, not catching a 60-pounder.
Other people have caught that.
Yeah, other people. Yeah, one is at 60, but other people have caught.
Sorry, one is 60.
Yeah,
sorry,
but
Dave.
have caught that. But to affect people and bring happiness in a time, you know, that first lockdown, if we're honest, people didn't know whether they were going to live, die. And all of a sudden you've got this bumbling buffoon in yellow glasses and a tie with spods round his neck, filming himself in a bed reading Carp Fever with a teddy bear. You know, I think it just brings a bit of light-hearted
it does.
humour.
We've been warned as well, you've got a weak bladder, Dave, haven't you? And
that's all right. I've been about 20 times on the way here. That's because I've had so much coffee and caffeine today. I've been in Oxford, and then I came straight to here.
So have you spoke to anyone about coming on this podcast?
Yeah, and they all said, don't do it.
Really?
Yeah. No, I spoke to a few people. Spoke to people who've not been on it as well, who said, no, go. You know, you've got subjects that are good, some light-hearted subjects, but also some very serious sort of subjects, if you know what I mean. It's
well, you said you like a bit of banter anyway.
of course, yeah, you've got to, haven't you? I think from a young lad growing up with carp fishing, shall we say, how it was, you know, almost on the bank with a beer, having a laugh and a joke, was how carp fishing was. It's moved on.
And we were saying as kids as well, didn't we, that we used to, we were talking before the show started.
Yeah,
that
I can't believe you're going to out me on this now.
We used to set our fishing gear up in the back garden, didn't we?
Yeah. I've said to you, so.
And you get your brother or sister to...
Yeah. I had a friend who lived down my road, and we got into fishing. I'd lived near a little lake beforehand, and there was a lake, it was quite famous back in the day, called Brookfield Lane. And it was a really good 20s and doubles water. They had a fish kill, but we would have two books, and we would sit and almost read to one another. I mean, that's how warped my world is. I mean, who does that now? You'd be on the register, wouldn't you? But and we would read about certain things, and then we would, with pocket money or gifts, we would go, Christmas gifts and birthday gifts, we'd go and buy bits, and he'd have a diver rod, I'd have a diver rod.
So what books were you reading then?
Angler's Mail Basic Guide to Carp Fishing, and I think we just got Carp Fever. I know Andy Little's Big Carp as well. But we would sit in the garden, and then obviously Richie with his angling time stuff, and we would do a full setup. Argos bed chair, brolly, 2 rods, and we would play one another. And
right, play one another as in
fish. yes. Let's clarify that. We would play each other on the rod. Yeah, sorry. And then one of us would run into the conifers and cut you off, and you'd be cut on a gravel bar, and you'd be like, oh no, and you'd have to sort of pretend to re-tackle. And he probably won't thank me for saying this, but I remember, I don't know where it was, but I remember telling Dan Fairbrass about it. And I said, I can't believe I'm telling you this. And he said, do you want me to tell you something? I said, yeah. He said, I used to do exactly the same.
I can imagine he would
and
do
I
that.
Said,
I can imagine.
I didn't think I thought I was the only one in Britain who used to do it. And I said, and I've confided in you. He said, we all used to do it. And then I chatted to you earlier, and you said, I did it.
We used
and
to
I
do
thought,
it as well, yeah.
I thought I was this elite weirdo club that I was in of playing fishing and simulating fishing. But you said to me earlier, why did we do that? I said, because I don't think YouTube wasn't around, was it? Magazines weren't around. Even a magazine wasn't really technical. The most technical it was sleep next to your rods in an army jumper with patches on the side that Maddox wrote about. And
I don't know. Maybe it was just setting the kit up in the back garden, wasn't it? And just.
But that goes back to the fix, doesn't it?
We didn't catch too many carp to start off with, did we?
No. I mean, the place that we fished, we were probably about 10. We used to walk our stuff down. It was about 1.5 miles. We used to set up. It was boilies were banned. So, being naive lads, we used to use sweet corn or luncheon meat. We couldn't cast more than 25 yards because the meat would fly off. We didn't know what we were doing. All around us were catching. They were all on boilie. And we sort of learned, and I think we had 2 bites.
How old were you? Because we're believe it or not, Ted, we're the same age.
I know.
Really?
You've had a tough round, haven't you? Yeah,
well, I was going to say this about
I used to have an afro before the quiz, and but yeah. And how old was I? Probably 10 or 11.
So you got into it really early.
Yeah.
So what? You pretty much got straight into carp fishing, or?
No, we used to go and float fish down this lake and have some tench. I remember one of my proudest moments. My dad coming. He had no interest in fishing, but he came to see me, and I had this 3-pound 10-ounce tench. And I'm useless with dates, times, weights, but certain things are etched in your brain. And I remember him saying, "Oh, that's huge! And I was like, "Yeah," on a bit of float fish sweet corn. And we would try different things. We'd go and do a bit of pike fishing in the winter because that's what you did. You went pike fishing, and then you would read, "Oh, we're gonna have a go at tench fishing," and then we'd do a bit of match fishing, But carp was always...
Did you get into sort of the tenchy sort of carp fishing stuff before carp? Because I kind of got into tench fishing, but basically fishing as a carp angler. You know, boilies and setting all the kit up. Yeah.
Or we'd probably have, I don't know, a 6-week of once a week blank of carp fishing or nothing happening, and think, right, let's take up tench fishing for a week. And we'd do some tench fishing and maybe catch a couple, so we'd go for a couple of weeks of tench fishing. But some of the stuff we did was so crude. I look back now, I remember how I tied a rig and lost one was horrific, really horrific. So you look at what's available now and you think that's for the better sort of thing. But I wouldn't change any of it for the world. Wouldn't change anything.
I didn't even know when we used to like hair rig the baits on. You know those like Richmond Tropicana baits? Yeah, like 12 mil. That was a great bait, wasn't it? Yeah. We used to put 3 of those on a hair and then put a split shot underneath to hold them on there. You didn't even tie a loop. You know, or a hair stop. You know, it was like, it was all pretty crude, but that's the fun of it.
Yeah, it is.
You know,
and it is. And I was talking to someone the other day about this, and if you look, and I don't know, it's food for thought, but if you go back then, we used to have unhooking mats, or if you had an unhooking mat, or it was grass. But you had an unhooking mat that was probably carpet underlay or very early mat that these almost like shark style mustard O'Shaughnessy hooks that you had to sort of strike like wicked tuna about 6 times to even try and get it into their mouth. There was no fish care, but I look back and I think they were in good nick. Perhaps because they didn't get caught as much.
Was that? Yeah, I mean, maybe that's what it was. But they seemed to be well looked after, didn't they? The people, because I think the people that were carp fishing in those days, there was a smaller group, but because they'd gone out of their way just to fish for carp, they cared a little bit more, possibly. It was more, maybe a bit more important.
I was going to say, certainly as we got a bit older, and I was lucky, I'm still a member, been 35 years now, so I was 11 when I got in, but of a club just up the road from where I was, which was Abbey Cross, and it's quite a well-known club. And back in the day, it was almost like getting a Harrow or Cons ticket of Hertfordshire. It was like the club. And there were guys on there who were serious. I say serious carp fishermen. They'd invested money into their carp fishing. So my friend and I used to gauge, if your setup looked on point, you were the best. You were the best. You might not catch anything all year, but we would gauge you on that. And we used to do some daft things. A guy on the other bank, I remember, he was using chickpea, and we would run round with a wooden tape measure. And he'd be trying to take a photo, and we'd be measuring this fish. How we never got ironed out, I'll never know. We should have had it. Someone should have given us a dig. It might have sorted us out.
You got a friendly face, though.
Yeah. And I just think, it's...
it's different. I remember setups. Do you remember the Des Taylor videos at Cattle Mill?
Yeah, brilliant.
And you remember the setup that he had, the KJB pod and the Bitex and the oval brolly. It just looked the nuts, didn't it?
Yeah.
I just want to do a bit of that.
And then you had Lockie's gear with the satellites. And if you could afford...
Did you have a satellite?
Yeah,
me too.
And his indicators. And you look on eBay, they go for fortunes.
What was it? The Night Glow ones? Was it Night Glow? They were called
Night Glow.
Yeah.
And a lot of that came about from on Abbey Cross. There was Bob Jones was on there, who was a Savay Looney Rota member. And I remember, I didn't know him at the time, but walking into his swim, and he had cork handled armour lights. I think they were sort of £2 armour lights, and white PTFEs in front of Cardinal 55s, tips bent in probably on a 2.5 ounce lead, but really bent into the rod. And I'm thinking, mate, you are the real deal. You are, and he could back it up. Obviously, he was head and shoulders above the people who were fishing on there. And
he said a Redmire and a Savay angler. So
he'd done a bit at Redmire, but more sort of Pit 4, Savay, Homersfield. And places like that, and he was at Abbey Cross. They weren't big on this little lake, but he was there for his boy who was growing up at the time. And I think, this was before sort of, bless his heart, drink got the better of him, but he sort of took us under his wing, sort of thing, and we would go to his house and listen to these stories of Savay, and I can remember when Broxup was still alive, and he sort of was telling us how he went to Savay's last trip. I mean, you're talking well over 25 years ago. He didn't cast out, but he spent £500 in the week. And then in the next breath, he said to me, I can get you on if you want. And I thought, I can't do 500. I don't earn 500 quid in a year.
On the syndicate?
Yeah, he said, I'll speak to Pete. He said, and I'll see what I can do. And I thought, I don't even earn 500 quid in a year. I thought, I can't drink for toffee. I still can't drink for toffee.
How old were you?
Probably about 18, 19. And it was at a time when all of a sudden the female species are
you've got to navigate that period.
Starting to thing and going out and nightclubs and Nick spoke about it before, the rave scene and sort of fishing fishing's never taken a back seat, but all of a sudden
it wasn't quite as important.
Yeah, when you've got a big pair of Bristols saying to you, "Come round mine," or you've got a £10 common saying, "Hello," it's like, sorry, mate, this is a no-brainer. I'm off. So yeah.
How long did it take you to get that out of your system?
It's still in my system. In fairness, I don't know. I think you go through that stage, don't you, from late teens to, I don't know, whenever it gets out of your system at 24, 25, you start to get serious with somebody, and then fishing becomes.
Then it comes back again.
Yeah, and it's. But yeah, he took me under my wing, and some of the stories were fantastic, and then I remember being at Abbey Cross when they shot the sod pod pictures and also the bowlock stuff.
That's where the pictures were taken.
Yeah, they were taken there, the original pictures, and you're thinking, my God, this is Martin Locke, another hero sort of thing, and from that era of Lockie mainly and stuff, and you're like, oh my God. And prior to that, I think I said to you, we rode to Stansted Abbots to see Richie. Turned up, that's probably a 30-mile round trip just to say to him, all right, mate.
You knew he was fishing there?
Yeah, he was fishing there. A guy called Alan Rowland had a 40-pounder, but that was rare in the UK. And Richie was there to fish for this fish, and we went up there and sort of said to him, all right, mate. And he looked from the back of his bivvy and said, all right. And we said, any good? And he said, Tench. And we went, all right, good luck. And then rode 30 miles back.
Did you want to have a conversation with him? Really?
Yeah, but again, to an angling icon.
But Richie was. We said before, didn't we? William, the boy that used to cycle over to Yateley. Yeah. I said to you,
that was me. I changed my name for a depot. Yeah. I was like an athlete. I was like, Chris Boardman.
You look a little bit different to how he described the person.
And then I thought, they're not my heroes anymore.
Right.
Ronald McDonald is my hero.
Ronald McDonald. Yeah, different McDonald.
He's got a lot to answer for.
Yeah, no, but he liked the kids. He liked the kids showing an interest, didn't he? And he seemed to be. He seemed to like to share with him and show him what he was doing and stuff.
We used to have two tackle shops near us. One was Simpson's of Turnford, that was quite well known for rods and stuff like that, and the other one was Arnold's.
Yeah.
And Richie worked in there. Richie worked in there, but it was, you could never get near him. It was probably the early stages of shall we say, fishing stardom. That there was this man, I think he'd been to Casein at the time, and he was there, and I think he worked just a Saturday, but it was like, and Ivan Marks was there as well, and it was like, we're not really there. By this time, the carp fishing drug had well and truly grabbed hold of me, and you're like,
he really was. He was the first really big,
he was
celebrity sort of angler, wasn't he?
Yeah,
he was. And he still says now, right? He said, "Yeah, I've been out of this game for like 25 years. Come back, I'm still the best."
Modest as well, then.
Oh, he's modest.
Yeah,
he's modest. Maybe in the future we might do a podcast with him. But it's good to see him back.
Yeah, it is. It's lovely to see him back, and he looks well. Looks really healthy. Looks well.
Yeah, I mean, I've said to you, I've been. He's fishing a lake locally to me, and I've seen him over the last few weeks, and I've seen an improvement in him week by week. And he's fully focused back into that fishing stuff now. And the setup and stuff. Richie was always well known for the immaculate setup, and the slippers and the cat, and he's back to all that.
It's funny how things can influence you, and they still do. You look at the baggy jumper Terry wears. Everybody. I can remember two things. I didn't give you a photo of it, but I think that was an era because Bob used to wear moccasins. So did Richie. So did I then. I had to have a pair of moccasins. Moccasins. The fact that you'd be swamping through mud just to put your moccasins on. And then I don't know if you've got a photo of it, Tobes, and then Rob Malin when he was on the Pads Lake, and I think he has jumbo and he's got a Hawaiian shirt on. And I thought, I'm going to wear my Hawaiian shirt. There we go, yeah. That was influenced by Rob Malin, I thought.
That was Rob
and that was my going out shirt. No wonder I never had a girlfriend till I was like 45.
Well, that was their going out shirts as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, he never dressed like a carp angler, did he? Even the gear that they used to sell, the big carp gear. Do you remember all that? The tracksuit bottoms and stuff. It was like as far away from carp fishing as you could.
Well, you look there, a pair of blue Nike tracksuit bottoms.
That's a nice picture, Dave, isn't it?
Do you know what? I look at pictures like that really fondly of...
Just keep looking at them.
Yeah, and just think, when's my next bite?
Or when am I going to catch one again?
So no, I got to know Bob quite well. We started talking about all different things. By this time he'd made rods for me, and he would talk about bait application and how to bait. And I'm still, like I say, I'm still a member there now, but we decided, myself and a friend, we'd struggled the winter before, really struggled, and there wasn't as many fish as there are in there now, and I think they went up to about 17, 18. And from what Bob had said, we decided that we were going to bait in the winter. And we got hold of this protein, I think it was Nash's Euro protein mix, and we actually put it with Nutribaits' fruit special. They're under the counter thing, and we were rolling this by hand. And we were rolling about
milk protein bait.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but it said protein on the thing, so we were like, yeah, that'll do.
That was the in word back then, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, around that time, I remember we got some bait from John Baker, and John Baker said, when you make your mix, put a teaspoon of salt in it. And I thought, this guy's on crack. What's he telling us to put salt in it for? And he said, but when you have your chips taste nicer with salt. And I thought, yeah, all right, mate, whatever. Just dismissed it. And then I look now and I think nothing goes out without salting it. But we were rolling, I think it was about 30 kilo a week of 10s and 12s.
Which was a lot of bait then, wasn't it?
To give you an idea, my mate's mum and dad, we were rolling it in their sort of downstairs kitchen. They lived in a townhouse. We were rolling so much bait at the time that the ceiling collapsed through steam. And it collapsed. And I had to attend the funeral of his dad a few years later. And he said to me, thanks for coming. I said, well, I ruined his house. The least I can do is turn up. But we put this bait everywhere because we feared that if we could keep them moving and everywhere they went, we would catch, or they would pick our bait up. They'd be used to it. Excuse me, sorry. They'd be used to it, and it would be a massive edge. And we started in October, and it wasn't tricky, but the winter before had been tricky. And my mate kept saying to me, "We're gonna catch a 20-pounder," and that was really, really, really rare in there. I think there'd only been about 4 that we knew of in the last 10 years. And they said there was these mythical ones that lived under the bush on a Wednesday morning, and only fed on a Saturday, and and we kept baiting and baiting and baiting and baiting. I remember we had a bit of rough weather coming. He couldn't come down to the next day, and I did the night. And I remember having a bite, getting this fish in, thinking, oh, you're decent, you're quite nice. Weighed it, and I said to him, I've got a 20-pounder. I think it was 20 pound 12. It was a common. I don't know if you've got a photo of it, Tobe. I don't know if I had a mobile, but I remember running round to another guy, which was really nice because there's 2 lakes there. And a guy called Clive Arrowsmith, who's a very good friend of mine, was fishing the other lake. And him and his mate were catching and keeping it quiet. We knew they were catching, but no one else was there.
Were they doing something similar to you guys?
Similar, yeah. Clive was using his own gear, Whacker Catcher products at the time. But they were catching, and we were catching. And we'd meet in the car park on a Sunday, be like, all right, lads, how'd it go? And it was great. Nobody was there. And I said to him, Clive, and he had all the thing. I said, can I borrow your phone? He said, yeah, I'll phone my mate. I said, Keithy, I've got one. I've got a 20-pounder. And he came up. And I don't think he cast out that day. He said, come on, we're going to the CAF. We went to this garden centre, and he said to me, you can have mushrooms today, bro.
All right.
And I thought, right, yeah. So, yeah, that was...
looking at a picture, that was your first 20-pounder, Dave?
Yeah.
And in a late autumn time as well, then. So
That's early, I think that's... late February, early March.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and there was actually a conventional
proper winter one.
Yeah, there was actually a conventional close season. There.
So did Bob do a lot of that stuff during the winter? Is that something that he would do? He sort of took over the running of the club, and we would have big work parties, but they would go on for a weekend, and we would have massive roaring fires, few beers around the fire. Maybe, I don't know, a burger or something like that. He would tell stories of, funny stories of the Looney Rotor, or all of them going off to see Tina Turner with their rods out, or Roger Smith counting out grains of sweet corn out of a tin, and he'd done that and knew how many grains were, and he was going to fly on Concorde to New York, and he was telling us a story about the stunt man in the horse and barge, where he was on a bike, and I don't know how true it is, but
The doors were open. There was a ramp put by the cone, and the stuntman came out of the bloke's toilet on this bike.
What?
And then there was, he said, and Bob told a great story, and he said there was smoke coming off the tyres, and this bike went through the pub, and he went and just dived straight into the cone about 4 foot out, sort of thing. And but the way he told the story was fantastic, and we hung on his every single word. We must have left him of a night, and he must have thought, idiots, they believe anything I tell them, sort of thing. But yeah, he was a massive influence, and God rest his soul.
Yeah, absolutely. As a carp angler, I mean, how would you define yourself as a carp angler nowadays? Big fish guy, circuit water? Or?
I don't know. I like fishing for big fish.
Has it got to be big fish nowadays?
Then? No. I think nice looking fish. I crave a bit of peace and quiet. Although I'm quite a large and loud sort of character, when I'm fishing, nothing's further from the truth. Yeah, I'll be sociable. I love having a pint with people, or a couple of cans with people, but I actually just love my own company when I'm fishing, and sit there and work out and try and solve the puzzle. I think it's hard.
You'd miss the company of other anglers if you didn't have a lot of anglers around you on the lake.
It's funny. So I've gone. So obviously my Welly ticket is finishing July the 1st this year. I've gone back to Abbey Cross. They've got a lot amazing, where I started sort of cutting the mustard, so to speak, and they've got some fish that are really coming through. And I've been fishing a swim. One of the big ones has got form for this swim. I've been fishing it. It's probably about as big as this table, this swim. It's tight. You're fishing woodwork, so you can't wander anywhere. It's like a prison sentence. You sleep next to your rod. You go to a loo next to your rod. You eat next to your rod. There's nothing else to do apart from...
This is in the Lea Valley.
Yeah.
You got the north, the Lagoon Lake.
So it's just down from the south and the centre Lagoon. It's near Carthagena. So it's probably, I don't know, 2-minute drive from Carthagena. It's a club lake, and but it's got some really nice fish in it. And I thought, I'm waiting for a Dinton ticket, and I thought I'm going to step back, and also somebody said to me, when you leave Welly, not just the size of fish, but the what you have there, and the bit of water. You've got your own bit of water. No matter how busy it is, you've got probably 2.5 acres of water yourself. You'll almost find yourself a little bit lost, shall we say? And I've gone through that stage slightly, and now I'm very much of, I'll just have a little bit of a chill. I'll go and fish for some ones I want to fish for.
It's a lot different as well. I mean, people that are watching this, you're always going to get the comments from a certain small minority group that will say, Welly, $2,000 a year, blah blah blah. Privileged anglers, but you're not, are you? I mean, you're a day-to-day.
I work 9 to 5. I sell bathrooms for a living.
Yeah.
There are some very wealthy people who have got tickets on there. But then you've got guys who are train drivers, work in tackle shops, They
have to save and sacrifice to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I think Welly has a stigma, doesn't it, of, because there are so many big fish and the ticket price, it almost gets dismissed out of hand. And sometimes it's cool, in brackets, carpet or cool, to blank and to not catch and go a whole season without catching things.
So for people that don't fish there, do you think they'd be surprised at the difficulty of fishing Welly? I mean, they're not always crawling up the lines there, are they?
I don't. I think the same with any carp fishing. I don't think Welly's hard. Definitely not hard. It's quite flat bottomed. I know Darryl spoke about it. It's quite flat bottomed. They can move about a bit. They don't really hold. They do hold up in certain areas for 2 or 3 days, and then they're on the move again. But like with every carp fishing nowadays, what makes it difficult is people in your way. And they've got as much right as I have to be there. And
does it get overcrowded there?
No, not really. At certain times it does. I remember when I first joined it 4 years ago, Martin Pick said to me, try and come on a Wednesday. He said, because there's a big changeover. You've got the Sunday boys who do Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, go home on a Wednesday. And then you've got that bit in between. And then you've got the weekend boys who turn up on a Friday. What I would call conventional style, old style things. I said, all right, mate. Numerous times I walked onto there on a Wednesday. And the most I would see is someone barrowing past me. See you later, Dave. Yeah, tell her, John. Yeah, bye, mate. Yeah, thank you. And he's very much there, a bit like a gentleman's club. I think because there's a lot of money. It's in a well-to-do place, so people are quite. Yeah, you hold things back. Of course, you hold things back. You know, I've held things back there, but people are quite sharing, you know, and I, to some extent, unless you've got something going,
you feel that you need to be a bit more respectful on those type of waters.
But why wouldn't you? If you're baiting an area, then I can understand it. Perhaps you wouldn't say. But if you're just down there doing your bit of fishing, and you've seen them up there, and you're going home, why wouldn't you tell somebody? Because I believe in karma to some extent, and good things happen to good people. Why wouldn't you tell somebody? You know. Or just don't put yourself in that position where you have to sort of lie. You know, I remember last spring, Willow, big fish called Willow, had formed for coming out of an area.
Is this the common?
No, this is it's Big Mirror.
We got a picture of that, haven't we?
Yeah, we should have.
Yeah.
But it had formed for coming out of an area, and all through from sort of end of December, January, February, March. Even though I didn't fish the swim it came from, but you would where it was, you could come past it, and I would stop every single time. And this area where a friend of mine had caught it from, I thought, I'm going to give you some bait, and I would put 2.5 litres of salt in, like in big rocks.
Rock salt?
Yeah.
Like the Himalayan stuff?
Yeah, I'd smash a horse lick up and I would put that
horse
out.
licks? Yeah, it's proper salt.
Yeah, big lumps. And I would have to be so careful, because when you're putting in a bit the size of a cricket ball, or maybe a little bit smaller, that makes a fair bit of noise as it goes out. And then so I'd bait it on the first day if I was there, and then I'd come, and then on the way out I'd give it boilie as well. So they had the best of both things, and I did this and did this and did this and did this, and then.
Did you find that was better pre-spawn with the rock salt?
No. I think.
We're looking at Willow here.
Yeah, and no, because when I had Scruffy Bob, I was putting the salt in, and I'll tell you about the spot changing. And I remember being opposite. I couldn't get in this swim. Leon Bartrop was in there. And I remember sitting there, and I could watch the area from where I was. It was 400 or 500 yards away. I think Leon had one, a little one. I remember watching 3 or 4 show, and they never really showed on this spot. And I thought, they're there. Spoke to Leon. Leon was going. I thought, right, that's it. I was up at 5 o'clock, round behind him. I said, look, I'll leave you be. I think I left him and just went for a wander. And he actually said to me, the amount of times I've pulled out of it or pulled off of it, and a good one comes out.
Yeah.
And I think I was out about 3 hours. I had a little stocky. They'd put some stockies in. And then 3 hours later, Willow, 56. And I thought, yeah. And that gave me immense pride, because I thought, no, you just keep putting it.
Had you used it prior to that?
A bit, but not really. And then I'd seen Jim Shelly advocate it, and I thought, yeah,
Oz has talked about that as well,
Oz
hasn't he?
has, and a few of them, and I thought, all guys who I massively respect, and I thought, you need to get on this. You need to. And then even now, when I'm spomming out boilie, there'll be like lumps of it in the mix.
What, as a seasoner for the flavour, just as to release flavour better, or for other purposes as well?
I just think they're looking for that nutrients.
Have you ever put that stuff in a pond? Have you seen
No.
the way they react to it?
No.
Flipping hell! I've seen them reacting to blocks of that in a pond. They they home in on that really, really quickly.
Yeah.
They just hover over it.
Yeah.
They just hover over it for long periods of time, and definitely it definitely attracts them. That's for sure.
Yeah, it does, and it's but yeah, and like my hook baits. If I make hardened hook baits, they're all in salt, all the time now. But
there it is.
Yeah, that's Willow, there.
That's a bit
And
of
then
a
we
grip.
actually went into lockdown.
Oh, this is sort of what. So you caught this what March last year? Or?
Yeah, the week before lockdown, I think. And everyone was like, "We've missed spring," and I thought, I don't care about
What
spring.
a
I'm
fish
still.
that is. Yeah.
It's. And then, funny enough, I had it again.
I was going to say to you, does it come out very often?
In September, I saw a good fish show in this area, and I was just, and I couldn't get where I wanted to get, and I thought I'll just have a go there. Put this rod out there. Next day, I was on the phone to work, and it just ripped. And it was a different fight. That time, I don't even think I think he'd just woken up because he was like coming in. This time, he was flat rodding me all over the place. All over the place. But no, going back to the salt, I can remember building up to when I had Scruffy Bob, and there was an area I'd been told about 100 yards out, 105 yards out, that was quite soft when you put a lead across it, sort of with a bit of braid. And from October to right up till beginning of November when I caught it, I kept putting salt out there and then baiting with salt when I was leaving.
Just putting salt out there.
Yeah, salt.
Blocks of it in a spom or something.
In a spom, yeah. So it's hard sometimes because it would hit the bottom of the spom and it
Fingered
explode
open,
there,
yeah.
But I also think I was pretty sure that nobody had used it on there, or nobody for a long time had used it on there. So I thought it's got to be an edge, a bit like Darryl with the Tigers. Nobody had really used them, and I think one of the things with Welly is if you give them something that they like and nobody else is on it, that's a big edge on there, really big edge.
Are you surprised? I mean, obviously, like fishing on there and seeing Darryl go on there with tigers. Are you not surprised that someone didn't use tigers like that previously?
There were a few lads who'd used them, but Darryl's a different level, isn't he?
Darryl's Darryl, isn't he? Yeah.
And the biggest compliment I can give to him, I said to someone, when he's rolling and he's on a roll, stay out of the way because he is on a roll, and it builds 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 in the. You know, and it just keeps building and building and building. He's not 1 week as a result and then nothing. It's that momentum with him and how he carries that momentum. He's quite.
But I mean, you associate it as a boiling water, don't you, Welly? But it's I mean, it just goes to prove with like Darryl and that there are different ways of catching him on there as well.
Yeah, there are. I mean, I know a guy. I'd used maggot on there before. There's a lot of small stuff in there. There is a lot of roach and stuff like that, and tench. But he'd used maggot in the winter before they were banned. I think he'd had a couple, and then I think it was before my time they sort of got banned. But
did he have a lot of trouble with small fish while he was using those?
I think he did, yeah. I think he had to wade through the tench, but... he never slept anyway. I mean, for an older guy, he never slept. He was phenomenal. He used to move around a bit, or quite a lot through the night. He'd move 2 or 3 times in the night and have caught from that swim, but they just weren't there, and he'd move again.
Is it important on that water to keep moving around? Then are they quite nomadic?
No, just it's
hard to because you can't spend continuous amounts of time on the water there, can you? So it's difficult to get something going that you could possibly do on a different type of lake.
Yeah, I mean, but like you said, you asked me earlier what I get from my fishing now, and if you go back 15, 16 years ago, it was size. Size was important, and then you move on a little bit and. Is the water protected? Has it got a fence round it in terms of the longevity of the fish? You don't want to be fishing for a special one and all of a sudden Mr. Furry Otter comes down and eats its stomach out, and that's heartbreaking. So nowadays It's about if there's a time constraint, because some of these places where the people can stay relentlessly, you can't compete with that. You can't compete with that, and ultimately, the person who's got the most time will end up dealing with them, sort of thing. You have to have angling ability, but if you look at angling nowadays, you can go to a tackle shop, you can buy a ready tied rig, you can buy some line, you can watch, you can go and have a casting lesson. So you can do that. But
so you think Welly nowadays is a reasonably level playing field?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. If you look, some people have got all the time in the world, but they have to go after 72 and they can't come back for, I think it's a week. So it doesn't matter what they do after that 72, even if they're having it off, they've got to go. Ta-da, it's my turn to. Are they nomadic? They can be flighty, but you'll tend to find that, in my opinion, they'll hold in an area for 2 or 3 days. There'll be bites from there, and then they'll go off somewhere else. And they might not give the game away at certain times. You might have to go up in the night to listen and look. But they do show on there. They do show, and they do give there. And when I first went on there, they treated it with a blue dye. So the only things you could really see were the koi.
How did that affect things on there?
I think personally, I'm no expert on it, but personally I think they lost a lot of fish that first year. There was a big thunderstorm came in. I was there. They lost a lot of fish. There was a big oxygen.
And that was
crash.
your first season, or?
Yeah, I can remember being
Crikey,
there.
I'd imagine what you were thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I joined there was 15 50s in it. I'd been offered the ticket 2 years or 3 years before that, but I was so into Elstow, and to some extent so blinkered by that Elstow thing that Welly was a bit further than I travelled. I'd been from my house to Horton, but Welly was that again, sort of thing. And I thought, that's a long way to go, and I sort of turned it down. At the time, I knew Steve Fantuzzi quite well, and Steve knew Chris, who was running the lake at the time, and he said, mention my name and you'll be all right. So I said to Chris, who was running it, so I'm changing jobs, which I was. Steve said to just explain it to your Fantuzzi, and he said, do you know Steve? I said, yeah. He said, I'll leave you where you are on the list. And that year, I turned it down. He did 20 50s. 20
different 50s.
Yeah, and I thought, okay, perhaps you've dropped the proverbial one there, David. But hey ho, I had a great time elsewhere. Taught me lots, and then the parks phoned me 2-3 years later and said, would you be interested? And I said, why, is there a place? And she said, well, I can't tell you that. I said, well, you wouldn't be phoning me to say was I interested if I wasn't close. She said, yeah, you're really close. And yeah, like I say, took the ticket there, and I would say to anyone who's not been there, have a go. It's an electric place. It's you have to, from 9 o'clock to 5, the public are in, and there can be up to 2,000 people in that park, and it's just like white noise. That's how I can liken it to. You've got screaming kids. You've got rides, you've got a train sounding its horn, you've got goats.
You've got dinosaurs.
Yeah, you've got dinosaurs roaring.
Not real ones, but yeah.
And then about 5, well, the park I think shuts at 6, but at 5 o'clock the public starts to leave. And it's electric. It is just electric.
It's a nice contrast.
Oh, it's chalk and cheese. You don't hear anything by the odd car. But yeah, no, going back. So I was convinced that salt was an edge. I had Willow using it, and I was catching regularly. And this spot that I was baiting out in the pond, and I didn't even set myself, but I was just catching from it. And the spot was changing. But the spot was the start. This was the year before. And I was using it, so I knew the power of it prior to catching Willow. This spot was changing. It was going harder and harder and harder, and I was picking fish up of it, 31s, 24s, stuff like that. But up until that point, you join Welly essentially to catch a UK 50, and I'd had one. I'd caught 25, 30 fish seasons for 2 years on the bounce. I remember my mate Charlie came down, and he loves a social. loves a social. And he said to me, I'm going to go next door to you. I said, all right. I remember sitting with him and saying to him, this is absolute bollocks, Charlie. I said, I'm having 20, 25 fish. I know a good year I've had a 30 fish season. I've had 150. I said, matey boy over there has 5 bites all year, 350s. I said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do next year. I'm going on food baits. I was using like a white cell pop-up. I said, I'm going on food baits next year, big stiff hinges, crude as anything, but big fish tactics. I said, I'm going to bring my DVD player. I'm going to get in them 5 triangle swims, and I'm going to rot it out for a big one. He said to me, no. And we were supposed to be having a socials, November. Got to about 6:30. I said to him, that's it. I'm going to bed. I've had enough of this. He said to me, this is a great social. I said, I can't even. I said, the place winds me up. 6 o'clock in the morning. Bip, 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 bip. 61 pounder.
Lake record.
Yeah, lake record. And unfortunately, it's gone now. So.
Yeah. Were you the last one to catch it?
Yeah. I'm like the Grim Reaper, aren't I? So, but yeah.
Did you expect it to be that big?
No. Even I thought it would. It had done 60. Neil the solicitor had it, I think the year before, just £60 an ounce. Guy had it in the autumn about 57, something like that. No, I didn't. But there was no weed in there. They're reliant on bait. They have to eat. I've not been there for a few weeks or a few months now, but I've been told that the weed's coming back up and they're flourishing. But that blue-green dye's going as well now. So the place is... So
that lasted a long time then?
Oh, sorry. My first trip, I remember spomming out, and it was like Papa Smurf jumping out the lake. It was like a blue whale coming out. As you spommed, the blue coming out, and it was so bad. You couldn't balance a rig in the edge because it was so strong. And whether they'd given it too much.
So the fishing was affected
So what had happened? When there was the 2050s, I believe there was some weed. They'd had a big oxygen crash. They wanted to treat the weed to get rid of it because they'd lost some fish. So they used this blue-green dye, and it had just affected. They wouldn't spawn. They would be moody. Certainly my first year. Whereas now they show quite regularly.
Do you think it being a reasonably shallow lake as well, that might have had something to do with it as well? Less volume of water and. I
remember Tom Banks saying, "What makes Welly fantastic will also be its demise," sort of thing. That because it's so shallow, it's so reactional to weather conditions and different factors. Whereas perhaps a deeper lake can maintain it. So it's.
But you caught that. I mean, and Welly just came back. I mean, obviously there's less fish in there, but other fish, as is always the case, seem to sort of take over. And
they push it.
How many 50s in there now?
5.
Right.
5.
I mean, it's still incredible, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, and like I say, people sort of dismiss it. It's a fantastic place to go carp fishing.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I wouldn't change one bit of every session I've had there. The highs, the lows. Good social scene. Really good social scene. Funny, that the whole syndicate, certainly in them first years, would reel in at 11 o'clock and they'd all go up or a lot of them would go up the farm shop for breakfast, and it was a real traditional style.
That'd be costly, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I remember, I can't remember what trip, but I think I'd had the Chestnut Common. It was my first 50 from there, and I said to everyone, I'll get breakfast. And then 70 quid later, and you've got people going, I'll have another tea. And I thought, I bet you'll have another tea when I'm paying. And I'd made this big announcement, whoever's on the lake when I catch one, I'm taking them for breakfast.
No, why did I say that?
There were people probably driving from all over England to get bivvied up and ready. I was here.
Yeah.
So,
did you always plan that this would be your last season, or did you?
I mean, I've had of those 5 left, there's 2 that I'd like. They've just been out, but £2,000 a lot of money for me to find. I'm repeating on a lot, or I've been repeating on a lot of fish, and also I'll hold my hands up. That drive and that buzz has diminished a bit, because when you've gone through some of that stock, and the vast majority of them, unless it's the ones that you really, really want, it's all too easy to slip into. Let's have a social. Whereas now, the place I've been, I think, I'm right on it. I'm back as I would want to be, not slotting in there because they're, working areas and stuff like that. It's
different fishing.
Yeah, and I don't. You put on this life for one life, aren't you?
Circuit waters. Then you said the first circuit water you fished, Horton.
Yeah, so I'd been on Abbey Cross there. I caught a really nice common out of there, £43, and I'd have put my name down for Horton, and read about it. I thought, yeah, and it came up, and I thought, let's have a go. It's my first real dip into the water of circuit waters, and it was a massive eye-opener.
Was Horton still sort of coming back then when you started fishing there?
What was in there? Shoulders was in there, the parrot was still in there, the wood carving was still in there, fantail was still in there, and you had a lot of guys on there who were well known. It was at a time when there was a lot of gold cards. I think Barney and RMC were giving out gold cards for fun, and I thought, yeah, let's go and have a go. I think sometimes and I was still relatively young, and I thought, yeah, let's go and have a go. So went down to the draw. I came out second in the draw. The guy who came out first loved an area called Weedy Bay, and they said, Dave, he's going to go Weedy Bay. You've got to go Captors. I said, right,
Captors, yeah.
Yeah, Captors Returns. Yeah, that's Weedy Bay there. Yeah. And he said, you've got to go Captors. Anyway, so he said, Weedy Bay, Captors. And we could bait. I didn't bait it. I was still relatively new to it, but
sorry, we're looking at a lot of weed there. Was that Canadian?
I know it was. I don't know what the weed was. It wasn't Canadian. It was like that stringy sort of weed you get in the rivers that you see where it grows sort of thing, and then all of a sudden you'll see a barb will go through it. That sort of stringing weed. It was hard. And
so was that right from the bottom upwards?
Yeah, but the spots are like they're beyond that. So your line would almost go across the way down into the spot. I'm sure sometimes they knew. They knew.
See the line going straight up.
And I can remember being in there a few weeks later and shimmying up the tree. That you could climb a tree there, and seeing the parrot in there, and then shoulders coming in, and I was round the other side, and I'd caught one from the off in Captors, and I was doing overnighters. There was a lot of lads doing 5 nights a week on there, and remember this. And the following morning, a guy called Peter Bond, when we'd done our walk round, said about baiting up with just tiny little handfuls, not big handfuls, and I sort of took that on board, and I just put this put this rod down the edge, sat there, and the rod just hooked round. I remember playing it, and I remember my legs and my hand were just like jelly, because I thought, Shoulders and the parrot were in here yesterday, Shoulders and the parrot, and I'd seen photos of Rob Maley and Steve Alcott with a parrot. I'm thinking, please, and that was the one I really wanted to catch.
Parrot,
yeah. I thought, please be the king of the ugly ones, please. And it wasn't. It was. I think it was one of the early stockings. I think one of the Viv Shears ones. But and then I had a few more trips there, and it was.
Sorry, this light baiting stuff. Is that? I mean, there was a lot of bait going in there. I mean, was that something a little bit different?
No, I think if you got in one of those main swims, for instance, the Plateau, Captors, they were good areas where fish would pass, and you had to stop them. Whereas they're in there, just grubbing, and just nick a bite,
pecking around.
Yeah, nick a bite, and away you go, sort of thing. And I look back at it, and I actually toyed with rejoining. I know they're a lot bigger, but I look back and I think, I wish I'd have had 2 or 3 nights a week, because in that circuit mentality, sometimes you would have to wait to get into somewhere, and 2 nights was a rarity now. Now if I do 2 nights, I'm like, if I do an overnighter, which was the norm for me, and I was going to work at 6:30, 7 in the morning. Now I look and I think, oh dear, I can't do that. Oh, I'm never going to catch. But you do, don't you? I also think you start to adapt your angling and maybe even become a little bit sharper in what you do, sort of thing.
So that first experience, was it a nice experience for you?
Yeah. I think it was my first real experience of being decoyed a bit. I remember a guy coming around and he had 2 huge great buckets. And good old friendly Dave said, well, where are you off to? Just making polite conversation. Don't know yet. Well, unless you're training for World's Strongest Man, mate, you know exactly where you're going. I said, all right, okay. And met some good people on there who I still stay in contact with now.
It's a busy venue now, isn't it?
Yeah, I got a ticket came up. I can't name it for publicity reasons, but it's in the Colne Valley. It's got it still has some huge commons in it. And a ticket came up for there, and I thought, it's frustrating that I can't get into where I want to get to. This place was quiet. I'm going to go here. And, and it was brilliant bit of fishing. Brilliant bit of fishing. It was, I'm not saying they'd never seen the spod, but the amount of times I'd be on the phone to somebody and they'd say, who did you, I've had a 38. Who did your photos? I self-took them. There's no one else here. It was phenomenal. And they played the game there. They would fizz. You'd get liners. Bang, you were away, sort of thing. And so I had a few years there.
You thought the spod was a bit of a weapon back then as well, if they'd never seen it and been able to put... Yeah. I look at that, shall we call it that, Elstow style of angling. And I've used it on a few venues. I'm not saying it works all the time, but when they've never seen it, I think it's an edge. They've never seen it. I remember using it at a quarry. They probably had seen it, but using it there when I filmed with Elliot for Korda Stitch in Time. Yeah.
They'd never seen it, or in my opinion, they'd never seen it. They probably had, and it was like just going off, and you're like,
well, I mean, it's still a great method now. I mean,
you
can adapt it as well, can't you? I mean, I mean, crikey, to be able to put bait out, boilies out that accurately, because before it was really difficult, wasn't it? And to put quantities of bait out, it was just more difficult. Wasn't it?
And I look at the boys who were doing it, particularly Carl Scholl, who were light years ahead of their time in terms of how they would apply it. The style of pellet they were using was an oily pellet. I remember going back to the Abbey Cross days, and you talk about edges in carp fishing. I can remember getting hold of the original salmon pellet, and the bottom of the bag would be full of salmon oil, and that was a massive edge. It was almost like they would bow wave down this lake to get to you, but it was pellet was about, but it wasn't as oily as that sort of thing. But but this place in the Colne Valley, they loved it. And we'd use like yellers over the top of it, and it was phenomenal bit of fishing. Really, really good.
How long did you fish up there for?
I had a ticket for about 4 years, sort of thing. Yeah, and I sort of came to the end of a bit of it that I thought I'm going to take a pit 1 ticket Elstow, and
different experience.
Yeah,
I think Jamie was saying as well with Elstow, it's a funny water to start fishing, isn't it? You've got people that have been fishing there a long time.
Yeah, and it taught me an awful lot about myself as a person, my tolerances to things, because
So did you come away thinking, I'm all right?
Yeah. I wouldn't change it for the world. But I remember going on there again, going back to this. I think I'm quite a friendly chappie. And
we'd agree with that, Tobe, wouldn't we?
Well,
I've known Dane a long time. He's definitely friendly.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks very much. Cheers. But people, there was a little clique on there who would walk behind my bivvy to get to where they would get to, and I used to think, well, why don't they want to come and see me? You know, I'll make them a tea. I'll make them as many teas as they want. And for a while, it used to beat me up a bit. And then I used to think, fuck you. I don't want you in my swim. You're going to just talk rubbish, load of rubbish, drink me a tea. I'd prefer to have people who I want to have in my swim. So it taught me almost, I don't care.
So how were they acting? They were talking to you?
They would just walk past.
Right.
They walked past because...
And how long did that last for?
Season and a half, 2 seasons. Then Dan Wildbill went on there. And a couple of them said, yeah, blah, blah, blah.
The charm sort of took over.
And Dan said to him, no, Dave's a really nice guy. Go and talk to him. And then they came down. And I'm not one to hold grudges. I'll never forget things. But, you know... and, oh, hello, mate. Yeah, you want a tea? And I thought, yeah. So, you know, it's... and I don't know why. I'd made a flippant comment, so maybe that was that.
And what was your perception of them once you got to know them?
The same as it was to begin with.
Didn't change?
Not really, no. Not really. But I wouldn't change it, and it was... Didn't
affect the fishing for you then?
No, it did a bit at the beginning because Elstow was... they would hold up in areas. So info, in the words info, was key on there. To know where they'd been and to network with people, because they would hold in areas for week, 2 weeks. So, but you know, again, the level playing field. There was a draw on a Friday at 11:30 for our rota. It was 1 week on, 1 week off. I think Ian explained about it. So you all had a fair chance. There was a lot of myths spoken about as well on there. You know, and I remember, you know, stories of, oh yeah, this guy whittled his pop-up down for 3 weeks until he got it balanced and he had a bite. And you remember watching a guy called Tony turned up and he used a 16mm bottom bait, 12mm tipper, Camasan B175. He used to call it a cod rig.
Yeah.
And he freighted boilie out and pellet, and he smashed it 1 year. He could not put a foot wrong. And fair play to him. And from that moment I thought, a lot of what gets spoken about, but not just there in carp fishing. You just have to filter it, don't you, sort of thing. But yeah, no, it was good. It was different forms of fishing. You know, in the summer they would come right in the edge, and there were some good in the edge anglers there. You had the reeds, which was brutal, you know, and I can remember losing the plot one day. So you have to remember the sun's coming round. There's nowhere to escape. You are sat on those rods, the tips are up and they're over the back of this bar, and it's beating down, and you can just about hide under a small little willows there, but it's all day in your face, all day. And you would find they'd get in frog pool during the day sunning themselves, and then they'd come out, and I remember getting this bite, tip pulled down, and you had to literally hook them and walk back, and I was using 12-foot 3 3/4 test curve rods, strong gear, and the whole fight, the rod was just 3/4 bent double all the way around. I remember getting in the net. There was a guy to my left getting in the net. I don't know if you got a picture of it, Toad, with a Korda out on.
Was it the two-tone one?
Paw print, yeah.
Paw print, yeah.
And I remember losing the plot with this fish. I remember screaming at it.
There it is.
I'm the governor. You think you can take me on? You got another thing coming. If you want to go again, we go again.
So mate,
as though he was having a tear up of football. It was like, and this guy popped his head up from the bivvy and he was like, "Is everything all right?" I went, "Yeah, everything is all right." And he went, "Okay," and put his head back down.
Didn't know you caught one then?
Yeah, I think he did, but I think he was so scared that I was screaming at this fish. You think you're the governor? I'm the governor. You can have that. Just absolute. Whether I had a bit of sunstroke or just the emotion again.
Did the fish behave really well on the bank?
He absolutely cracked himself. Yeah, he went and bought me some beers and stuff like that. Yeah, no, and he was. I had him a couple of free times in the
paw print. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
but lovely, I remember that was the trip. Yeah, it was.
So that was just emotion coming out then, Dave.
Yeah.
Does that happen very often?
Yeah, it's happened. Yeah. For some reasons, as a big old bald-headed lump, I can be quite an emotional person, you know. I mentioned earlier about the glasses, about the guy with the mental health problems. I can remember going to Rainbow when I was on Elstow, got offered a trip, and I was for my birthday. And Clive said to me, it's a trip, big boy. If you want to come, we're going to go rainbow. And I said, mate, I don't know. And he said, you've got a week to prepare. Darren can't go.
You only had a week to prepare to go there.
He said, Darren's going to lend you all the gear. I said,
right.
I said, mate, he said, I'm going to pay for you for your birthday. I said, all right, okay, fine.
It's getting better.
I know, yeah. I said to him, well, I need some new rods. And no. So he said, do you want to come? So I said, yeah, I'd love to come. So we headed off down there. I was still very much into my Elstow fishing. And he said, you're in 7 and 8. He said, that's the best chance, I think, for a bite. I'm going to be in 9. And 11 runs into 9, big bay. He said, they're all right. He said, it's Kev the Ledge trip. He said,
Kev the Lead.
Yeah.
Do you know Jordan Wesley as well?
Yeah, they're Jordan. Yeah, Jordan and Kev, really nice fellas, top fellas. He said, it's an all right area. He said, he said, it's not the flyer, but we'll be all right. So we trundled down there. And I remember we got into the swims, and I'll come on to saying in a little while, but for people who don't know, Rainbow's very sandy. So he said, right, so we set our swim things. He said, what you need to do, the most important thing you need to do, is set your bivvy up properly. He said, get your DVD right, your lights, because you're not moving. You're there.
It's your type of thing, Toby.
Yeah. He said,
get the DVD players.
I've seen a few people do that. My old man takes his iPad a lot.
Yeah.
He said, how much fishing he
I
actually
can't
does.
afford an iPad. He said, and on Saturday night, it started raining. So he said, and we'd been allowed to get into the swim on the Saturday. You get in at midday. He said, mate, we're not going to do the rods tonight. He said, it's too rainy. He said, I'm not doing these. And I was very inexperienced in a boat. He said, and I'll have to help you, mate. He said, so I'm not going to do them. I said, all right. He said, we'll do them tomorrow. We're here for 2 weeks. I said, all right. I remember sitting in my bivvy. He'd gone back, and it was sort of a point area, and he was one side and I was the other. And I remember sitting there, can of Foster's, just listening. And it was eerily quiet.
Were you itching to get the rods out?
Yeah. But also a little bit nervous. You know, you're on Kev's trip.
What are your impressions of that lake? I mean, it's not everyone's type of place, but it's definitely got its own atmosphere. Hasn't it?
It's funny when I don't know what I've not been for a few years now, but when you turn up there, the front gates are sort of hanging. It looks like Jurassic Park a little bit. That's how I can only really sort of liken it to. Some people say the fishing is brutal. More of it is solving puzzles. You're not going right You're not going right into the woodwork. So and it is locked. Everything is locked really up. I mean, you tighten the clutch, and then you tighten it again as though you're going to break that clutch. And you know, you're like, if you pulled it really hard, it would cut your hand. And sometimes you'll get, and you think, how does that happen? How's it taken that? And
that's how much it's pulling.
Yeah.
I've seen friends they've had videos there, and they've had the back bank stick actually pulled out of the ground.
Yeah.
You know, it's just.
are
all the bites like that?
Most of them are. Well, I'll tell you this story. Lad who fishes, he's done a YouTube video. He was on our trip the second time I went, but I've forgotten his name. He went with Jordan, was sort of whitey blondie hair, Matt. He was a Savay member.
Matt Bennett.
And he videoed a bite.
It was Matt's bite I was talking about.
Right, yeah. And it was a bite. It was about 300 yards out, round about 4 islands, and the tips. But anyway, so I sat there overnight, and all I can liken it to was somebody just getting chest freezers. I know people say this, but you know, and they were just throwing them off this boat. I just wouldn't. If you'd have said 2 guys came past and they were they were fly tipping for chest freezers, I wouldn't have batted an eyelid. And I sat there and I just laughed, and I thought, this is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, cut to the chase. We do our rods the next day, and I think that afternoon I have one 41 common. I think we've got a picture of it, Tobe. I thought, I've not blanked, and that's all I'm bothered about for 2 weeks. Just we've not blanked. I've not blanked. So Kev had told us, and Kev's really good. He'll sort of point areas out and say, that's a good area. He told us this area, and it was round an island.
Do you find when you turn up there for the first time, you are you are merciless. So you have to listen to. You need to be listening to the advice of other anglers. It's just too much to.
I look at with Kev. He goes there regular. That's his main fishing. He knows the place like the back of his hand. Why would you not listen? Why would you not listen?
I listen to Jordan a lot, and you had some good
Jordan,
company. You had some good company when you were there.
Oh yeah. It's Keith was there as well. Yeah, and anyway, so he said put a rod. So he'd come out in the boat. He said put a rod sort of here. So he'd gone off. Clive said to me, "Come on, then we're going to put for us." We put this rod out. I think it was the Wednesday or the Thursday. The big low pressure came in, rain. So I've got some rods out there, and I've got the door zipped down. I get bip, bip, bip. Look, I thought, what's that about? Bizarre.
There it is. Oh, mate.
And that's my first bite. And then it went bip and dropped another inch.
You look a bit menacing there, Dave, don't you? Look at that pitch.
It's heavy that day.
Honestly,
Yeah. Look at this.
I know, that's my gangster look. I do a variety of different looks. And it dropped back. And I thought, it must be a branch hit the line. So I went out, took it out of the clip, loosened the clutch, tightened it up, put it back in the clip, and it went back and set in the bivvy. Bip, bip. I thought, this fucking branch. Went out again, tightened it again. It did it again. I thought, I've got a bream on here. I thought, do I leave it? Or do I bring it in? I thought, I need to do it. I can't have that all night. I'll either have to turn the alarm off, which I can't do in case it's not a bream and I get a bite. Anyway, so I stop. And this is from the bank. Bear in mind, I'm round the back of an island. And this thing starts to come round. I thought, I've got one on. Comes up in front. And bear in mind, everything else Kev had said to us, you've got to get in the boat.
Yeah.
For all of it, but I think 2 bits. This thing comes around. All of a sudden, this common appears. I thought, yeah, a 20-pounder. And it comes a bit
20-pounder in Rainbow.
Yeah. Well, mate, I've had 11-pounders from Rainbow. This thing gets closer, 30-pounder, 40-pounder. I've had this 40-pounder, and then all of a sudden, blimey, I think you're a 50. So I sort of put it in a retainer. The rain's lashing down. I ran into Clive and I said, I think I've got a 50, mate. I think I've got a 50. He said, all right, let me just pause my film. So he comes down, he says, you stupid idiot. He said, that's not a 50, that's a 70, mate. He said, all day long. So he said, what rod? I said, it was that one. He said, did you get out in the boat? I said, no. He said, how'd you get it in? I said, I dragged it round this thing. He said, how the hell have you done that? I'll never know. And
what's that, Silver Common?
Yeah, 77.
That's it.
And so anyway, put that back and I thought, oh, this is great. And you go back to emotion. I set him a bivvy. I'd lost my dad a few years before that to prostate cancer. And I just cried. Just cried. And I said to him, I hope you're watching, mate.
Yeah.
I hope you're watching.
Yeah.
And so, I do get emotional. Anyway, about 3 days later, and this is how brutal Welly is. Rainbow is. We stood in Clive's swim. Mine's gone quiet. He's got Lockie's line biters on. So he says to me, he calls me big boy. He said, big boy, I'm going to get a bite in a minute. I've just had a massive liner. So I'm stood here. The rod butt's there. I'm here. He's there. And he's using Delkims, he's using Baziers, high Essives, so expensive kit. He got one bleep on his rod. Bear in mind it's lassoed down. I don't know if you've got a picture, Tobe, of how we tie him down with like bungees. And it's lassoed down and it just went beep. And all you saw was the butt slam into this tree. And it was just gone. And the rod was gone. And he went, my rod's gone. So we rigged you have what you call a donking rod. It's a little 6-foot rod that you swing about to fill for woodwork. We rigged that up and he went out. He said, I've got it. And I remember, I thought he's going to bring it up. If this is Moby Dick, I would not be surprised. This could be Jaws 1 here. And it was about a 34-pounder.
Yeah.
And it just had got enough power to get going. So anyway, he put the rod back out. We sat there one afternoon, and this is gospel true. And we had a it was either a carp weld or I don't think it was a big carp, but it was a carp weld. It might have been advanced. And we were looking at an advert. I think it was a solar advert. And he said to me, "That's the one you had. That's Silver Common. Tom Duncan Dunlop had a brace of them."
Yeah.
He said, "I'd love that one." And literally minutes later, this rod just roared off. He could fish a loose clutch because he was fishing it close in. So he starts playing it, and because it's sandy, I'd say to him, "I'll get your camera out," and he'd go, "Get out of my bivvy." He said, "Because when you sweep yours out, you're sweeping it in. You make too much mess." So I said to him, "Do you know what I mean?" He said, "No." Yeah. He said, "Mate, this is the biggest fish," and we always have a laugh, me and him. He said, "This is the biggest fish I've ever had in my life," and he's had some huge fish on from England and abroad. And I said, yeah. He said, "I swear to you on his boy Ben's life, this is huge." So he brought it back.
He's playing it from the bank as well.
Yeah, and then he went out in the boat. He jumped into the boat, brought it back. Oh, Jesus. He said, I can't remember. I think they called it the Immaculate Common. It might have been something like that. But it was the other one of the brace. And it was £80, 8, I think. Yeah, that's Clive there.
God, blimey.
Yeah. It was huge. And he had it.
Look at the little dimples around its head and stuff.
I know. And that's in October.
Looks like an armadillo, doesn't it? Like the top of the head.
It was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous.
How many of those were in there at the time? That sort of size?
I don't know about 80s. I think there was about 4 or 5 at the time. I think there's quite a few 70s. Yeah. There is quite a few 70s. Or there was. So anyway, so we headed back, and it was great.
And you've been back there at 2015. You went back.
Yeah. It's sort of a trip that we. Yeah.
Sorry, I mean, did you learn a lot, obviously, from 2 weeks fishing there? Were you capable of going back there and fishing for yourself?
Yeah, again, because it can be quite expensive to spool with braid.
Yeah.
And I'm quite lucky that Clive's
an expensive tackle as well. Would you necessarily do?
No, it's
cheaper gear. And,
I think a lot of the lads use cheaper stuff.
Shorter rods because you're out on the boat. And stuff.
See, we never bothered, but a lot of them will do. I mean, I think if I went really regular, like Kev does and Jordan does, I would probably get myself some tournament 6000 T, something real workhorse that you could chuck in a boat to bounce off the boat, and maybe some 10-foot rods and stuff like that. But and
what about the lake itself then? What did you notice the habits of the fish and the way that the lake generally fished?
Yeah, I mean, Kev, like I say, has been for many years, so he would know the good areas to be at certain times of year. So he doesn't have a bad swim. He's been going for a long time. So Pascal looks after him. He knows where
he's
to
a
go.
Popular guy, isn't he?
Yeah, Kevy's. Yeah. Certainly around trip time. Yeah. But he would know exactly what swims would do in it, and like I say, so got 2 years later, Clive says to me, "Darren can't go." No, Darren's not going. Kev says you can come. I said, "All right, I'd love to." He said, "Darren's going to lend you some gear again." I said, "All right, okay." He said, "But you're in 18." He said, "It's an iconic peg." And he said, "You are on show." I said, "Right." He said, not that he knew I wouldn't. He said, "But mate, you are on show, so you can't go wandering about looking at stuff. You need to sit by those rods." And I said, yeah. He said,
"Why didn't they want to fish 18 then?"
Clive loves 17. So Kev and Jordan were on the island.
That's not a bad area, is it?
Yeah, no. It's a good area. Clive always wants to go in 17 because it's shady. That's how he gauges rainbow. He doesn't want to go in the sun. So he said to me, "You're going in 18. It's July." He said, "But it's going to be hot, really hot." I said, "Yeah, I love the heat, mate. Don't you worry about that." He said, "Mate, I'm telling you, it's going to be ridiculous." So he said, "Right." And I was working at the time. He said, "Right, I'll pick you up about midday, 11 o'clock. He said, "We'll get on a ferry." So we start trundling down. So for those who don't know, but to get down towards Bordeaux where Rainbow is, you come through a town called Rouen. It's probably about the size of Cambridge, to give people an idea of the size. But it's the main drag to take you down. I think there's other ways round, I don't know. But so we hit Rouen at about 4 o'clock on the Friday, rush hour. So we start driving. So he says to me, we can go over the overpass bit, or we can go through there. He said under the underpass is quicker. I don't know if you've been through their side, but so we're in this transporter. We're driving down. So we go down these things, and it's busy. It's like I say, it's rush hour. There's 200,000 French people making their way home from work to enjoy the weekend, and there's these two clowns driving down to Rainbow. So we go under the first underpass, gap above the roof's massive. There's cars all behind us. It's a one-way. Get under the next one, a little bit short one. I said, yeah. I said, we'll be all right. He said, yeah, everyone comes this way. They all come this way. I said, right, okay. Get to the next one. He says, oh, that was close, wasn't it? So by the time we're free in, get to the fourth one, he says, I'm going to slow right down. You jump out, jog along, make sure we're not going to hit it. So I said to him,
God,
right.
you know where this is
going.
So I said, no, we're all right. Jump back in. Sorry, mate. Away we go. We get to the next one, and you can see, you don't even have to get out. We're not getting over. He said, we could, because sometimes he said we could let air out the tyres. I said, mate, we need to take the tyres off. We ain't getting underneath that. So we're in the middle of ruin, rush hour, traffic's building. Car horns behind are starting to go off. It's like a scene out the Italian Job when there's the traffic jam starting to build. There's a few disgruntled French people coming out with comments.
Yeah, you can imagine that as well, can't you?
Yeah.
So, and Clive's the most mild-mannered man ever. Nothing really phases him. He's quite chilled. So I'm outside looking. I said, what are we going to do? He said, you're going to have to flag the traffic across, and I'm going to have to reverse back up. Now, you could get off at, I don't know, quarter of a mile sort of exits and get back on the highway. So we're reversing.
What's this, like reversing up a motorway?
A bit like an A road, like the 127. We're reversing up this A road, but the traffic's at standstill. So these people are having a mo. I'm sorry. We're getting called wanker. People are shouting at us through the window. I've got Clive saying to me, tell them to blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, right, yeah, okay. I'm like, ever so sorry. You can hear sirens in the background. Obviously, the old biller coming. I'm thinking, oh, mate, we're going to get a tug here. So anyway, we get to the top, and it is gridlocked. As far as you can see, it's just at a standstill. And there's people out of cars looking up on the road, like as though there's been a crash. But the way we got out, we just sailed out like it was this getaway. We get down to thing, and then we sort of lean there, and you can hear sort of in the distance, and we get down to Rainbow. And on the Friday night, you normally just set a brolly up at the clubhouse. So we see Kev, and he says, God, he goes, John's going to be late, or whoever. He said, he's stuck at ruin. They reckon it's gridlocked. He said, I don't know what's gone on there. And I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me, and he said to me, just don't say nothing. Don't say nothing.
Oh,
and the guy turned up,
story.
he turned up about 1 in the morning. He said, I don't know what went on. There was traffic anywhere. It was gridlock. He said, I said, oh, mate, you want a beer? I said, I'll get you one.
Yeah.
House. But,
Have another beer as well.
Yeah, and Kev had said to me on the Friday night when we got there, he said, you're in 18. I said, yeah. I said, I won't let you down. He said, no, I know you won't. He said, don't worry about that anyway. He said, Alan Danu is in 18. He's struggled. I think he'd had 2 or 3 bites, lost one, and had a couple. And I'm thinking,
he's quite handy, isn't he?
I'm thinking the Terry Hearn of Europe, as he's described. A guy who's got a great pedigree on Rainbow and a fantastic angler. I'm thinking, this guy's struggled. And this clown's going in, who
just stopped half of France.
Yeah, who stopped half of France. He doesn't really know what he's doing in a boat. Oh, my God. Anyway, I saw Alan, and he sort of said, yeah, I've had bites there and there, but he's slow. I said, look, I appreciate that. I said, all right. And I thought, well, if I can have 4 bites in 2 weeks, I'll take that. That's good. So, again, Kev came and he said, right, Dave, you got the stump. It's quite a
fishing the same spots as Alan?
I don't know. I didn't... I sort of asked him, certainly 2 of the spots One was in the deeper water spots that did the better fish and the stump. And anyway, so Kev had told me. So Clive said to me, look, I'll come with you the first time. He's gone in 17. He said, I won't put my rods out. I'll come with you the first time to do your things, but you have got to get a handle on the boat. I said, yeah. I said, no, I brought France to a gridlock. I can do anything, mate. Don't worry about that. So we go out in this boat, put a rig rod down, blah, blah, blah. He's still sat with me, and I'm showing him a Ridge Monkey toasty maker. Because whilst he's caught some amazing fish, he's sort of a little bit out of the loop with carp fishing a bit. So I'm making him a toasty. He's like, this is amazing. And that rod just hoops over. And it's a 55. It was my first bite. And I thought, oh, thank God for that. Thank God for that. And they must have just turned up en masse that few days. You've got 19 round the side, and sometimes people will bait 19 to stop them coming through, but this guy wasn't. And I'd like to say, it was my skillful angling, but it wasn't. They just came in on us en masse. And
when you say en masse, when they turn up on you, what sort of numbers of fish do you think you're talking about?
I would think there was. I don't know, because you don't see them. Although when I was going out,
they're showing and stuff.
No, but I would go out in the boat, and there'd be a big set of snags to the left of where the stump was, and there'd be like two big 50s just sat there, almost like, all right, Dave, chuck a bit of bait in and we'll oblige. It was that. In the end, I was throwing baits up in the air and just smashing down, and they just sat there. They just wanted to come in there and be there. And that first, I remember John Walker came down, him and Matt Quibble from Tracker and Signet. I remember having a bite, and I said to John, I said to him, watch this, I'm going to show you how easy it is on here. And by this time I was probably about 20 bites in, 25 bites in. I remember going out, putting it on the stump, coming back, tightening the clutch, and it just went, I went, see, like this. And but we were in and out all day. I think that first 3 or 4 days, it just started to brew. It got better and better and better.
That's exhausting fishing, though.
Hard work.
Having to go out in the boat every time.
And it was, the temperature was building, and you can't escape. And even Pascal was coming round, and he was saying to me, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah." He said, "You been for a shower?" No. I said, "The closest thing you'll see to an SAS man that was totally lost on him." And I said, "I've got my shower." And I don't know if you've got a picture, but we lived under these showers that had a head like the size of a 50p, and were like a solar shower, and it could get to like 9:30 at night. It was so hot, you would just drench yourself and then lava your body up. And
they're quite handy, those, aren't they?
Yeah. You can see the sand there.
Yeah.
That thing. And I sell shower heads for upwards of $5,000, some of them. And that thing was a lifesaver. And Pascal was sort of saying to us, who owns Rainbow, you've got to shower. We're like, yeah. But it was just going off. And not lots of bait, couple of handfuls of hybrid, cell, and sort of a handful of pellet, handful of hemp. And I remember, I think it was the Thursday morning, and you start to get an idea when you're starting to deal with numbers of what's a 40, what's a 50, what's a 60. I remember that morning I had a 61, and I broke my intervalometer. So I was having to do everything, because Clive was up there, I was down here. And I broke my intervalometer, and I sort of thought, oh, God. Anyway, the day went on, and you're doing different job sites. So one day you'll be boiling hemp, next day you'll be putting more leads in the boat. And you do your jobs before it gets hot, and then you are just escaping the sun, just putting suntan lotion on you and just necking water as quickly as you can get it.
Is that how it works on there, really? There's a sort of a routine that you get into there, and generally once you're fishing, it can be quite relaxing.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. It's we would in the times I've been, we would get up if we'd had action the night before. It might be you're going to have a morning rig time, or you're going to boil up some hemp, or you're going to make up some like ground bait slop, or even clean your boat out, or clean your bivvy out, because it's sand, so sand would get in there. My first trip, Clive said to me, the most important thing you can bring is a dustpan and brush. I used to think, what's he going on about? It was true. Just a clean up sort of thing. But that morning, I had a 61. I thought, oh, yeah. Day passed, I can't remember now. I think I had some more bites. Clive had been out. 17 was brewing. They'd moved a little bit round. And got to about 9:30. I'm thinking, oh, thank God it's got dark. It's just getting dark. I thought, this is fantastic. I'm going to have my shower in a minute. I'm going to have my shower. I'm going to have my dinner. I'm going to carry on watching Band of Brothers. I was watching the box set again. I thought, oh, this is beautiful. And the rod just hoops over. Get this fish. I'm out in the boat. Net it. By this time I can use a boat. I'm becoming quite good. Oh my God, you're fair size. And so you've got the wade tripods there. So I get it back. Right, put this in the retainer. Right. Put it on the scales. Sand underneath. 67. I thought, you're ginormous. I thought, 67. Strange, isn't it? Oh well. I thought, well, that's worth a photo. So did the retainer, put him in the thing, and it was too. I'd had it too early, and I'm not for one for keeping it for daylight shots. Sort of, it's the memory's etched in your mind. I remember saying to Clive, mate, I said, I've got a 67 here. I said, it's massive. He said, all right. He said, I'll reel in. I'll do my rods at night. And often at Rainbow, they will put them out at night because it's calmer. Like Kevin Jordan will do it. He said, get everything sorted. I'll come down and then I'll put mine back out. I said, all right, mate. So we came down. He said to me, I got the fish out. He said, are you sure that's 67? I said, well, the scale said 67 and they're not that old. He said, that's huge. And I said, yeah, I know, yeah. He said, do you want it to weigh it again? I said, no, the scale said 67. It's 67. When I'd had the 61 in the morning, someone was with me. Anyway, I'll come back to that in a second. So he said, all right, so we burned some pictures off. Don't know if you've got a photo there. So anyway, go to bed. He goes off, puts his rods back out, phones me up. He goes, mate, that was ginormous. He said, oh, it must be just hollow. I said, yeah, it must be just hollow. Anyway, the next morning, another bite. Get this fish in. I thought, you are a 60. No doubt about it. So, put him on scales, and he goes 57. I thought, there's no way you're 57. You can start to, do you know what I mean? A bit like in England with a 20 or a 30. You can start to go, I thought, no way. Take a stand back. Now, the stand's not been moved. I've not moved it. But I can only think that the lad who helped me with the 61 in the morning had moved it and made it perhaps wider. Or in all the kerfuffle of sorting stuff out afterwards. This fish is laying with his belly on the sand. I thought, you absolute prat. So I put it back in the unhooking mat, cover him up, adjust it, put it back up, and he goes 63. So the one from the night before, I always call that the 70 that never was. And yeah.
Oh dear.
And people say to me, "Hey, are you gutted about it?" No, not
There's
really.
the 70 that never was.
Yeah, there's the 70 that never was. Another mad face.
What face is that, Dave? What character is that?
That is. Are you
gangster.
sure? That is. I'm struggling to lift you. Are you sure you're 67?
Yeah.
And then there's
Bloody
another
hell.
picture. Times I don't know if you can see it with. That's the one. Yeah. And that's the 63 the next day.
Hey, go on. What character is that one, Dave?
That's that character is what a prat you are, David. What a prat.
I can't believe
Yeah.
I've done this.
But yeah,
yeah.
but and people say to me, I said no, but that's part of the
It's a
journey.
part of it.
Yeah,
of course it is.
That's part of the journey, isn't it?
And you wouldn't
It's-
have so much to share with us, would you?
No,
either?
exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't change it for the world.
So how many did you end up on with that sessions?
I landed 49. I think it was
49
in 2 weeks,
blimey.
and lost a couple. Clive had, I think, 53, 54 fish. It was ridiculous. And
Would you
Better
like
be,
another session like that on there, or is that too much?
it's funny because we'd all have walkie-talkies, and Kev would sort of say, he'd radio in and he'd say, all right guys, I've just redone the rods, how's it looking for everyone? So I might say, yeah, good Kev, I know I had a 29 earlier or whatever, and he'd say, yeah, best of luck. He'd say, let's hope we get a few through the night. And Clive would message me and say, let's hope we don't get any through the night. I want a good night's sleep. Let's hope we get one at first light before breakfast, one during midday, one in the afternoon, and one after tea at night.
Did it work like that?
Yeah. No. Do you know what? It was so constant that it almost became a "you won't break me." You just went into autopilot.
Yeah.
You just went into autopilot, as in almost like match style fishing. Let's try and get to 50. You know, it was.
But you must think, crikey, the difference between hooking that first one of the session and having that.
Yeah.
And being terrified that you might lose it and you might not catch anything else, and then hooking your 40 off. Yeah. 40 of fish and just just going through that routine. It's funny how the mindset changes so quickly, isn't it?
Oh yeah, and it's and I think, but when it's building and it's brewing, it's and it is again, it gets sometimes some bad press. It's not as brutal as people think, and you go and it's. And
Pascal knows the anglers that are turning up.
Yeah, he's very select who he gives trips to. But like I say, it's very select, and the lads know what they're doing. But it's just you go there and no trip's the same. So and you would prepare for taking stuff that you would probably.
Do you ever walk around there when you're fishing there?
Drive around.
You ever drive around?
Yeah.
So you do get a feel for the place because I'd imagine you get lost around there quite easily.
Oh yeah. So it's one of the things I'm guilty of with all my fishing is I don't take enough pictures to build a scene, a memory. For you're asking me about it, and I
like Kevin Ellis's aerial stuff, and just seeing it and thinking, Christ,
But it's like if you go to a lake in the UK, a tree falls in the water, and there's a work party to remove that. Tree falls in a rainbow. There's a feature.
That's another feature.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden that tree. I don't know what they are. I think they might be spruces or something like that. It becomes really white, so it all of a sudden has that prehistoric feel to it. As in, I'm at Jurassic Park here, and when that rod goes, and you are unbunging it and holding on for dear life, and walking back. There was. I haven't put a picture up, but there was our van was 40 yards behind me, and if I got to the van, I knew I'd made it. And that whole time you're just walking and back, and they weren't going that mad. And as you walk forward, and then maybe walk back again just to get there, sort of thing. But you could go one trip and think I need some luminous tape next time, but you wouldn't have planned for that.
It's funny, isn't it? Because you've got extreme size fish in a really really extreme lake. Yeah. And the two sort of come together, don't they, a little bit? It's so unique, isn't it? There's nowhere else really like it, is there?
No, there isn't. It's
for you. I mean, is it just the fish, or is it the lake and everything?
No, it's a bit like I've spoke to you about Savay. It captivates me because not the fish, the lake does. Redmire. We went to Redmire with a BCSG a few years ago. The fish are not there anymore, but it's just to say.
Still got you, did it, Redmire?
Yeah.
I've never been there.
Amazing place.
Yeah, I must. We were with the guy Adam that runs Redmire, I think, and last year, and he said, "I'll take you over there and have a look." And it's like I didn't last year, but I'd like to see it.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, Savay never changes.
No,
that never changes. That's got a whole.
Yeah.
It absorbs you.
Yeah.
Redmire's
very similar. Never felt, because there's the stories of ghosts, isn't there, and stuff like that.
We've had a few of those ghost stories recently.
Heard a fair few of them.
Never felt like that. But obviously, there's not a lot of
light,
polluted light.
Yeah.
So you can be in certain swims with your hand in front of your face. You can't see it. It's it was good, a really good trip, and but I think some of these places, sometimes a venue has to have something in it to almost make you want to go there, so to speak.
But then you find that, like you say, the venue and the anglers and everything sort of takes on its whole thing, doesn't it? It's a whole package.
Oh, I went last year, the year before. Just popped over to Burfield, see a friend, and
do you get that on there? Do you feel that sort of atmosphere?
Yeah.
I've not been,
but
not
even for the common.
Yeah,
just the place is just, this is man's fishing, like real fishing sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously knowing what's in there, and it's got an iconic fish in there as well. But yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Like I say, I've never spent enough time there to necessarily feel that, but it's good though, isn't it? That's what it's all about.
Yeah, it is, and like I said at the beginning, I think it's getting worse. I genuinely do. My drive and love for carp fishing, and you have your ups and downs, don't you? And you have your frustrations, but everything that goes with it is phenomenal when it's.
Well, that's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what do you think the secret to that is?
Good looks.
He likes mentioning this stuff.
What do I think the secret to it is?
It makes he likes making us feel inferior.
Yeah,
well, if you look like Dave, mate, he just would, wouldn't you?
Yeah, thanks. I think the key is, I think if you're an angler, it's embedded in you. You know, sometimes I can't get my head around these people who say, "Oh, I haven't fished." Yeah, birth of a child or bereavement or stuff like that, but I just haven't really fancied it. How can you not fancy it? As an angler, you're captivated by water. I can't walk past water without looking. Whether that's the stream that runs at the outside of this building, just to have a look, see if there's anything in there. Probably isn't. But all of a sudden you see a little minnow go past. That's the magic, isn't it? That's what fishing does. Yeah. And you know, carp fishing has changed massively, but I actually think, apart from numbers, for the better. It's, you know, look at the companies out there that are giving you content like this, but giving you also good quality tackle and stuff like that. And, you know, look at
and great quality venues. I mean, you know, the venues that we've got available now. I mean,
it's
the
phenomenal.
reason why those iconic venues were so iconic was because at the time they were so few and far between. Yeah. I mean, now we are. You know, they're like vintage oil painting, some of those venues now, aren't they? But
again, going back to what we originally spoke about at the very beginning, the quiz, you know, and I'm not knocking anybody, because you have to start somewhere. But again, you know, there will be some people who wouldn't know Savay or wouldn't know maybe Redmire Pool, but they would know Brasenose 1. And similarly, the guy who's a hardened 30-year carp, 35-year carp angler, 40-year carp angler, he probably doesn't know what's I don't know, in Brasenose 1, but that other guy will, and I think that diverseness makes it
of course
good, doesn't it? It's like, you know, when I do the shows for Korda, I love it when people come up and they're telling you stuff, or somebody comes up and they say, "You told me about this last year," and I think, oh no. What did I tell you? I know. I'm waiting for him to go, and I've not caught anything on it since. And I think, I go, yeah. And he goes, it's brilliant. I love it. And I say, I told you that.
Thank God. Yeah.
Yeah, it's and that's
the beauty of it.
You know, it's there's lots of good stuff.
Yeah. You enjoyed being on the show?
Loved it.
Has it been what you expected?
No, it's been better. I expected it to be pretty average, really.
I'm about to ruin this experience for him, because I've been dying to ask you.
You've not recorded it? Brilliant.
I need to do it again.
Better than that. Dave, you looking forward to Spurs falling apart next season?
Oh yeah, that's.
We can't end it not without highlighting.
I've sort of. For a man who's followed them all over Europe and all over the country, I'm very.
You come to terms with Kane going to be playing in.
100%. He's gone.
Yeah.
Where's he going? Is he Man City?
Man City. I think so. And then obviously
you're a big Spurs fan.
Big Spurs fan, yeah. And
do you watch live games and stuff?
I've got a season ticket there, so I balance that with fishing. But fishing is my first love.
Got a season ticket there. You just can't go there at the moment.
No, exactly.
But the club are my first love if I supported Spurs.
Yeah, thanks for that, Toby. But the club, they want their money out of you, don't they? I suppose. Yeah.
So
it's
what do
a
you do?
big
Pay for your season? Do they give you kind of a discount or anything at the moment, or is it full price still?
No, it's full price.
Is
It's
it?
full price?
Just
yeah.
for
Good
the
old-
honour.
Good old Mr. Levy, yeah. It's full price, yeah. You're not getting no discounts out of him.
Yeah.
mate. No,
What's the new
it's
stadium like?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, it is. It's just.
Even I've got to say, as an Arsenal fan, it's meant to
Yeah,
be
it's-
the
it's,
best in the world.
Yeah, I
It's a
drove
shame.
past it last year. Yeah, it
It's
looks.
meant to be
What, a speed?
unbelievable.
You wouldn't want to stop round there. It's it's probably one.
Did
of the
we
most-
say that on the podcast? I remember going to fishing Walthamstow once, and it was the Spurs Arsenal derby. It took me 5 hours to get out of London.
Yeah, sounds about
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I mean, I would have got lost anyway,
Yeah.
but that just made it even worse.
Yeah, when we used to fish a bit on the higher Maynard, you could certainly on the bank that backed onto the low, when they were playing, if they scored, you could hear the roar from Walthamstow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's but yeah, no, I don't know, I'm a bit disillusioned. Then you watch what happened Saturday.
Brings it.
Yeah. Again,
Yeah, it was
good old emotional Dave was in tears watching that,
Nah,
thinking this guy's gone. He's gone. He's not coming back.
That was
Yeah.
horrendous. That
Yeah.
they shouldn't have filmed it.
No,
I was having
no.
this conversation with a few people earlier. It was a big mistake that to film it the way that they did. It was, close-ups of what happened, and
Yeah.
it was
Yeah,
In hindsight.
yeah, to see somebody with
But he made it, and I know that just shows the amount of support, medical support. I mean, to be able to revive someone almost instantly like that.
yeah.
But it's funny, wasn't it, with the Muamba thing as well? That was a Spurs.
I know
thing
it
as
must
well,
be.
wasn't
I
it?
might be cursed.
I don't know. I don't know.
think you two should wear heart monitors at the end of this, and
Maybe.
Do you know what I mean? I could be
Yeah,
like the
don't
Grim
say that.
Reaper. Yeah, no. Yeah, but it's been good.
Well, I would say good luck for Spurs next year, but
No,
we're
you don't
not.
have
We're
to
not
say
big.
that.
We're not big.
You might get yourself sacked saying something like that.
Yeah.
You might do.
Anyway, Dave, thanks very much for coming
That's
on the
all right.
show.
It's been a pleasure. I've
And
enjoyed myself.
It's been a pleasure as well.
Yeah,
Thanks very
good.
much.
All right. Cheers.
Thanks.
The Thinking Tackle Podcast.